All right, welcome back everyone for another deep dive. We're on number 4 now in our series on, well, all things HR. And today we're digging into something that impacts, well, pretty much every single person listening.
Yeah, motivation or maybe more accurately how companies try to, make sure their employees are motivated and doing their best work.
Exactly. And it's not always as straightforward as it sounds, right? I
Yeah.
mean, we've all had those jobs where, let's just say our motivation was, shall we say, a little bit on the low side. I'm thinking back to, oh man, that summer job I had in college, telemarketing. Ugh.
Oof, I can imagine. Not exactly a recipe for peak enthusiasm, is it?
You got it. By the end, I was practically hiding under my desk to avoid those calls. But anyway, enough about my traumatic telemarketing days. Let's get into what really matters here, which is how and why businesses put so much emphasis on motivation.
And the why is super important, right? Because we aren't just talking about, making employees feel all warm and fuzzy. There's a real bottom line impact here when people are motivated at work.
Right, so it's not just about keeping employees happy, it's actually good for business.
Exactly. I mean, think about it. When people actually care about their work, they put in more effort, they're more productive, and they're less likely to make mistakes. All of that leads to, better products and services, happier customers, and ultimately a more successful business. It's a win-win, really.
Okay, that makes sense. So how do they actually do it? How do businesses try to motivate their employees?
Well, there are kind of two main categories we can look at: financial incentives and non-financial incentives. Financial, as you might guess, is all about the money. Things like bonuses, commissions, that sort of thing.
Ah, the stuff that hits your bank account and makes you do a little happy dance.
Exactly. And then on the other side, you have non-financial incentives, things like recognition, opportunities for growth and development, and just creating a work environment where people actually feel valued and respected.
Gotcha. So it's about more than just throwing money at people.
Right, exactly. And that's something we'll be diving into way more in our next deep dive. But for today, let's stick with the financial side of things.
Sounds good. Let's talk money.
Okay, so let's start with probably the most familiar one: salaries. That fixed annual sum that you get paid regularly. For a lot of people, it's like the symbol of stability.
Yeah, the classic 9 to 5 setup. Reliable, predictable. But is it really the best way to get people fired up about their work?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And honestly, it's kind of tricky. I mean, salaries definitely provide financial security, but they don't always do a great job of, directly linking effort and reward.
So someone who's going above and beyond, putting in extra hours, maybe consistently exceeding expectations, they might not necessarily see that reflected in their paycheck.
Exactly. And that can actually be demotivating for certain types of employees, especially those who are really driven and thrive on exceeding goals. They might start feeling like, why am I putting in all this extra effort if it's not even being recognized financially?
Yeah, I can see that. So what's the alternative? What about hourly wages?
Wages, yeah. Those are calculated, hourly. They're super common in industries where the workload can kind of fluctuate. Think retail, hospitality, that kind of thing.
So if our favorite brewless cafe gets slammed with customers on a Saturday afternoon, those baristas working overtime are going to see that extra effort reflected in their paychecks, right?
Absolutely. And that direct connection between effort and reward can be a huge motivator for some people. But it can also have some downsides.
Oh, like what?
Well, think about it. If you know you're getting paid by the hour, there might be a temptation to, stretch out a task or prioritize clocking in over actually hitting targets. It can lead to a bit of inefficiency if people aren't careful.
Yeah, that makes sense. So it's not always as straightforward as it seems. Then there's commission and piecework, which are all about tying pay directly to performance.
Yeah, exactly. Commission is huge in sales roles, where a percentage of every sale goes directly to the employee. And piecework, that's more common in, say, manufacturing, where your pay is based on the number of units you produce.
It's a bit of a you eat what you kill mentality, right? But it seems like that could also lead to a really intense focus on quantity over quality.
You hit the nail on the head. That's a real concern. If the whole focus is just on, closing deals or churning out products as quickly as possible, there's a risk that people might start cutting corners or overlooking important details.
Which can, in the long run, hurt customer satisfaction and damage the company's reputation.
Right, definitely. So it's all about finding that sweet spot, pushing for high performance while still maintaining quality standards.
Right. Now, what about profit sharing? That seems like a cool way to get everyone invested in the company's success.
Oh, for sure. With profit sharing, a chunk of the company's profits gets divvied up among employees, usually as like a bonus or something. It's a way to create a sense of ownership and encourage everyone to row in the same direction.
It sounds very collaborative. But what about those rock star employees, the ones who are consistently going above and beyond? Could profit sharing feel kind of unfair to them if they're getting the same bonus as everyone else?
It's definitely something to consider. If someone feels like they're carrying the team but getting the same reward as those who are maybe putting in less effort, it can be demotivating for sure.
So, like with everything, it's about finding the right balance. And you know what? I think our old pal Brubliss actually does a really good job of showing how these different financial incentives can play out in the real world.
Oh, yeah, Brubliss, that trendy cafe we've talked about before.
The one and only. Think about it. You've got the manager there overseeing everything, making sure the place runs smoothly. They're probably on a pretty stable salary, right? Then you've got the baristas who are paid hourly wages and can pick up extra shifts when things get busy.
And don't forget the sales team. They're out there hustling, landing those big catering contracts, and earning those sweet, sweet commissions based on their success.
Right. And on top of all that, Brubliss has also implemented a profit-sharing program for all of its employees. So they're fostering that sense of shared ownership and rewarding everyone for their contribution to the cafe's success.
It's a perfect example of how businesses can, tailor their financial incentive program to different roles and create a system that actually motivates everyone to do their best work.
But of course, money isn't everything,
Yep.
right? There's a whole other side to this motivation puzzle, and that's where those non-financial incentives come in.
Yeah. We'll be going deep on that in our next deep dive. We're going to talk about recognition programs, growth opportunities, work-life balance, and all those things that create a work environment where people actually feel valued and respected.
So stay tuned for that. And a huge thank you to everyone for joining us for this deep dive into the wild and wonderful world of employee motivation. We couldn't do it without you, or without our incredible AI assistant, Google Notebook LM.
Seriously, this thing is a lifesaver. Its AI-powered dialogue generation technology is what helps us create these conversations. It can sift through mountains of information and pull out the most interesting and relevant bits.
It's like having a super smart research assistant who can instantly analyze data and help us craft these insightful deep dives. Okay, that's it for today. This episode of The Deep Dive was a PLC strategy production. Catch you all next time.